Alright, we now have got a scene that has a motion on it. And I can see that by moving my little red line, which is the playhead, back and forth. And if I test this movie, animate, it will run through and keep on going. So it runs, runs, and runs. However, what I'd like to do is I'd like to be able to stop it when it gets to the top of the house. So in order to stop it, I need to stop the timeline on frame 30. And one of the ways of doing this, or actually the sole way of doing this, is to actually use an action script that actually stops the sun at a certain frame. So to do that, I'm going to start off by going down to my layers and creating a brand new layer. And this brand new layer I'm going to call Actions, and I put it in all uppercase letter so that it clearly stands out. Because I only want to put action script on that actions layer. I don't want to put any shapes, I don't want to put any other items on there, just actions. So if I want to stop this at frame 30, I'm going to go out to frame 30, click on frame 30, and if you remember from class, if we want to take and make something change or make something do something different, we're going to put in a keyframe. So I could do it a couple of different ways. I can either go up to Insert, Timeline, Keyframe, and I'm actually going to choose a blank keyframe because there is no visual piece that I'm putting there. So I could put keyframe or blank keyframe, and it basically would do the same thing. Okay, in this particular case. So I'm on frame 30. I've got a blank keyframe right here. Okay, and now I want to take and add in there my action script. So we have a shortcut to our action script, which is called code snippets. We had, in our first video, we had actually taken it out of the window. So from the window, we had gone down and we had shown code snippets, and we had added that to our little quick set palette. Okay, but I'm just going to click on it. And code snippets are just as the name implies. It's just a snippet of code. Okay, and we've got three main ones. We've got ActionScripts, HTML5, Canvas, and WebGL. Well, we're only working with ActionScripts. So we're going to click on the arrow next to the ActionScript, which expands it out. When it expands out, we've got a number of different choices. We could choose Actions, Timeline, Animation, Load, and Upload. Well, we want to just control the navigation. So we're going to click a little arrow next to Timeline Navigation, expand that out, and the first choice we have is Stop at this frame. Perfect, that's exactly what I wanted to do. We wanted to stop at frame 30. So we're going to double click on this shortcut, this basically code snippet. When we do that, that opens up the actions window and inserts our code for us. The code actually has a couple pieces for it. It actually has something that's got a little / and an asterisk. Those things between that is actually just instructions. The actual code is what falls below. So you can see it has stop, and then it's parens, and then it has a mark. So what we're going to do is we're just going to close this down. We don't have to know any coding. We're just going to close that down. And if we look down at our playhead now, look down at our timeline, move our playhead back, you'll notice on frame 30, there's actually a little tiny A. Well, that indicates that there's an action script on frame 30. So let's go and let's test this out. And we can't test it by moving our playhead back and forth. So we're going to have to go to our control, movie test, test animate, and see what happens. Yeehaw! It stopped there right on top of the house as we wanted it to. So basically our stop script worked. Now we're going to go over and we're going to say, you know what, having a stop at frame 30 is great, but what I would love to do is have it so that it stops actually partway up in the sky. So maybe I'll stop it at frame 15. So just like we did with our frame 30, we're going to go over to our frame 15, click one key. Basically, we're clicking on one of the keys there. Okay, one of the frames. And I'm a control click or right clicker, so I'm just going to basically control click on that. And I'm going to choose convert to keyframe. Okay, and when I do that, all it's doing is basically, if I did add insert a keyframe, it would have actually added one more frame to this. I don't want to add one more frame, I just want to convert this one over. So right now on frame 50, I've got a keyframe. Do it just like I did before. Okay, I want to add an action script to this. So I'm going to go up to my code snippets, go to my timeline navigation, double click on stop at this frame. And now it adds a script right there on frame 15 for stop at this frame. So close this down. Look down at our frame 15. We actually see there's a little A there. So right now we've got an action script that's going to go on frame 15 and one on frame 30. So let's test this out and see what happens. So we go to Control, Test Movie, choose Animate, and you'll see it stops midway up in the sky. So we have it midway up in the sky. We actually got one right above the house. What if we could put a button on there that would allow us to allow the animation to keep on going? So basically, we want to create a button that when we place it on the stage will allow our sun to keep on rising. So the way we do that, and I'm going to have to delete something I already had built in a previous trial. So we delete my little button here. So let me cut that out. All right, so everything that we've done, every time we create an animation or anything like that, that animation converted over to a symbol. Anytime you have a symbol, it actually gets stored in our library. Okay, so we need to create a symbol, which is actually going to be our button. Okay, so the way that we do that is we could go and draw a shape on the stage and then convert to a symbol, or we can basically go into our library and right click or control click in it and choose new symbol. When we choose new symbol, we've got a couple things. We're going to give it a name, okay, as well as we're going to choose the type, and this is really critical. The type is the most important thing. So we're going to give this just a name so we see it, so we know it is BTN. Okay, so it's just, you know, it's a button, and that's all we have to do with it. We don't have to do anything else special with it. But we do have to go to our type and make sure we chose button as our type. We could choose movie clip, that would work okay, but the button option actually gives us a couple special keyframes that we can use. We don't want to use graphic. Graphic doesn't have any timeline with it, but we do want to use button for this. So I'm going to choose the option for button. I'm going to click on OK. So now over in my library, I have something called BTN, which is my button. Notice I now have got a blank stage in front of me. So what I want to do is I'm going to take and draw my shape on the blank stage. So I'm going to go over here to my blank stage, and I'm going to click and drag. And you know what, I'm not a big fan of the black being the center of it. So I'm going to click on that center, which highlights it. I'm clicking on the fill. And down here where my little fill trash can is, I'm going to click on that. And I think I'm going to choose green as my initial color. So what it has right now is it's got a green fill with a yellow stroke around the outside. Okay, so I've got my first stage, and we call this the up stage. If you look down here in your timeline down below on layer 1, you'll see it says up, and then it has basically the grayed out button right there on up, and that means that there is a frame, there is information on that particular frame of our button. So we have this image on here. I want to now create something in the over state. So the up state of a button is if no one's ever clicked on it. The over state is one, if you roll your cursor over, it actually highlights or does something, so you know that that is what you're about to click on, or you know really that it's a button. All right. So we are going to actually take and go to our over state, and we're going to insert a keyframe. Okay. We're not going to insert a blank keyframe. We're going to insert a keyframe. So insert keyframe, and you'll notice now I'm in the over frame, and the over it actually has got a green box, or I'm sorry, a green filled box with a yellow outside. And that's the same as we had for up. Okay. And what happens with that is when you insert a keyframe, it just copies whatever was on the previous frames. Okay. But I don't want my over state to look just like my up state, because then the user can't tell the difference. So I'm going to click on the fill of my over state, and I'm going to change that to be a different color. I'm going to choose bright red so it really stands out. Okay. So at this point, I've got a button that's got an up state, a down state. Now we could do, I'm sorry, an up state and an over state. We could do a down state, but no, I don't think we're going to do down state. It's just more steps for us. We can always add it later on. Okay. So I'm actually have just added a symbol. And if I look at the upper left-hand corner, you'll notice it says BTN, which is the symbol I'm working on. And then it says scene 1. So we want to go back to the scene 1 so we can actually use it. All right, now notice there's no button on here. So everybody goes, uh-oh, what happened to my button? Well, remember, we didn't create it on the stage. We created it in the library. So since we created in the library, what we want to do is we're going to take and drag it out of the library as a symbol and place it onto our stage. Okay, so I want this to occur on frame 15. So I'm going to bring my little playhead over to 15. And I'm going to now click on my button and drag the button right out of the library and right onto my stage. Okay, so that button is now appearing on there. Now, when you create symbols, it's very different than creating just a graphic. A symbol actually lives in your library, and every time you use it on the stage, it just creates a temporary version of it, what we call an instance. Okay, and because of that, we can actually take a symbol and use it multiple times and just have different instances for it. Okay, different temporary versions of it. So right now, this button, I want to take and put a script on that button. Okay, and so what I need to do is take and change the properties of this. So I'm going to go up to my Properties tab, and you'll see it says Instance Name. Well, I need to give this a name so that it's unique. Okay, so I'm going to do the same things we did before. I'm going to do BTN, so I know it's a button, but then I'm going to give a little bit of information about what it's going to do. Okay, so let me choose a BTN, and then I'm going to put in there go to, and then I want it to go not all the way to 30, but I want it to go to the very next frame because the stop frame is on frame 15. If I wanted to take and have it move, then I'll go to the very next frame, which will pick up and just keep on moving. So I'm going to put in there go to 16. That just tells me that it's going to go to frame 16. And the label you put on there means absolutely nothing. It is just a way for you to identify with that instance as being unique. Okay? So now that we have that, we're going to make sure we've got our button instance selected. And now we're going to go up to our code snippets. And just like before, we're going to do a timeline because what we're doing is we're going to make something move to someplace else in the timeline. So we've got a number of different options here. I've got go to frame and stop, go to frame and play. But we're going to choose the option for go to frame and play. So if I double click on that, it now takes and puts all that code into the actions layer. I don't have to do anything. It does it all for you. The only thing I have to change basically is what the instructions tell me. So the instructions say, replace the number 5 in your code below with a frame number you would like the playhead to move to. All right, well, we don't want it to move to frame 5. We want it to move to frame 16. So we're going to change that, 15, 16. We want to change that number inside of go to and play. And then we're going to close this down. And you won't notice anything different on your playhead because it's basically still just an action script, just a one action script item. Okay? And I just realized I made a big mistake, one that many of you will probably make. I just realized I added my button right on my actions layer. That's not right. I can't do that. Everything has to be on its own layer, and especially I can't put anything in the actions layer. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this one BTN for button. Okay, so double click on it, BTN, and I'm going to drag it down below my actions layer. So I know that I want to make sure my actions layer, actually I'm going to do one thing different. I'm going to take and make it so that the only thing that you want to have capitalized really is your actions layer, so it stands out. So what I need to do now is I need to go up to my actions layer, click on my button. I'll use the select tool with it. Click on my button, and then I'm going to delete it from up there on that layer, and I'm going to put it back down here on my button layer. Okay, so I'm just going to take and go out to my library, drag my button onto my stage. Okay, I need to go to the properties window, and when I deleted it, it got rid of the properties. So I'm going to need to type that in again. So I'm going to put in there BTN, then go to, and then 16. So now that instance that I have, and if I hit return, it will actually apply it. So this button has a temporary value of BTN go to 16. Okay. So since I want that to occur on frame 15, I'm going to place my playhead over frame 15. I'm going to click on my button, and now I'm going to go over to my little code snippets. When I go to my code snippets and click on my code snippets, I've got all those options, And below stop at this frame, I actually have click to go to this frame and stop, click to this go to frame and play. Well, we want to choose go to this frame and play. So we want to double click on that. It automatically adds in there the code for it. I got to delete the other code, the old code. When I deleted the button, I didn't take all that piece out. Let me fix this. And okay, so make sure that I don't have the extra code in there. Sorry about that. I clicked and I deleted the button, but I didn't delete the code. Okay, so when we went and did our insert, it brought in this item. It says go to this frame and play. Then it's clicking on this specific symbol instance that you don't have to worry about anything actually that's here. The part that you have to be concerned about is the instructions. So it says replace the number 5 in the code with a frame that you would like the playhead to move to. So we don't want to be on 5, we want to go to frame 16 because that's the frame after the stop frame. So our video will start playing right after that. So when we go and they click on the button, it's going to jump to on the timeline, it's going to jump to frame 16. So let's test this out. Okay, so I'm going to go up to my video, test movie, animate, okay, and it's going to play. Stop at frame 15. When I click on my little button, it now proceeds on. Okay, and it proceeds on to the next stop script. So we actually made a functioning button. Then we roll over, it changes color. When we go and click on it, it actually would take for our little our sun up to its next part. It'll actually continue the motion. Okay, so it's great to be able to do the one button. Let's take and come up with another button that will allow us to go move to another spot. Okay, so we're going to click on close, and I'm now going to take and make it so that we have a button on here that when we click on it, takes us to frame 1. So it starts the movie all over again. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my library, go back to my button, and this is the advantage of a symbol. Okay, a symbol I can use over and over and over again. All I have to do is change the instance name for each one of them. So I'm going to click on my BTN, my button in the library, drag it out onto my stage. It's out there in the stage now. And what I want to do next is I'm going to take and define the instance of it. So go up here to my properties. It needs an instance name. Okay, so this one is BTN go to, and then we're going to have it go to frame 1. Okay, that's what we're going to have this button do, is go to frame 1. So we now need to take and create the code for that. Okay, so I'm going to click on my timeline. I'll take it and put it on. Let's see, I can put on any of the items. Oh, I did it again. I did it again. I cannot believe that. I actually pasted it once again on my actions layer. So I have to delete it off my actions layer. I made that mistake twice. I have to put it back on my button layer. So on my button layer, okay, I'm now going to take, if you want to select the whole thing, button layer, I need to go back to my library, click on my button, drag it out on the stage again, and it's going to put it on the button layer. So right now, on my button layer, I have 2 buttons. Okay, I have this button down here at the bottom that takes me to frame 16, and this button here on the top. So what we're going to want to do is we want to make it so that when we click on this button, it jumps us to frame 1. Okay, so I'm going to go to my properties, and when I deleted it, I lost the instance number. So I'm going to put in there BTN, and then I go BOTO, and then I'm going to go frame 1. So it's going to go to 1. Okay, so this button that I have selected, this one's going to go to frame 1. So now I have it selected. I want to make sure I've clicked on it. And if you click on something, you'll see a little X in the middle of it, so you know you have it active. Go over to my code snippets. Go down to where it says, so I have stop at this frame, go to this frame and stop. Click on this frame and play. That's what we used before. Going to double click on that. And it puts in the scripting language. And just like before, I don't want it to go to frame 5. I don't want it to go to frame 16. I want it to go to frame 1. So when I click on that, that actually takes me to frame 1. Okay, I'm going to click on my little X. Now it's applied it. Now you won't notice anything different on your timeline. Okay, so on your timeline you will see little A's in there, but you'll not notice anything unique. Okay, so let's test and see if this works. So I go to my control, test movie, and animate. It stopped. If I click on this one, it will go on up to the other one. If I click on this one, it goes back to the beginning again. So by taking and going to this button, it moves it forward. If I click on this button, it goes back to frame 1. Now, since we don't have a stop script on frame 1, it basically is going to keep on moving. Okay? So what we're doing at this point is we've created a little mini program that actually has got 2 buttons on it that allow you to control the navigation. Those 2 buttons, actually, they control everything. They are only taking and jumping to different frames. Okay? So as I go through this, if I wanted to, I now need to take and figure out, well, I can't just leave these blank buttons on there. No one will know what they are. So I'm going to create a new layer. Okay? And I'm going to put in there BTN and then label. And all this is telling me, oops, and then double click on it. So BTN and then label. And by doing that, now I can put the text labels on the buttons. So over here on my side menu, I've got my text tool. Click on my text tool, go to the center of one of my buttons, and type in there, go to, and then this one is 16, right? Go to frame 16, and then that's that one. And we do another one up here at the top. Go to, oops, it didn't take it. See, gotta type, make sure I'm in the label layer. There it goes. Go to, and then I'm going to choose go to 1. Okay, so I'm going to drag that over top of it. Now, the one thing about this is I don't like red because I already have a red rollover color. That'll make this disappear. So I'm going to make it so it's black. So while it's selected, I'm going to go down to my paint color, choose, and go up and select black. Do the same thing with this one by clicking on it. Then it gets those little squares around it. Go down to the bottom, click on it, choose black, and I'll apply black. So right now I've got 2 buttons on there. One that says go to 16 and one that says go to frame 1. Okay, so now that we have those 2 buttons, we actually have little labels on them so we know where they go. We can actually test this again, make sure that it works. So I'm going to choose my control, test movie, and animate. When I click on this one, go to 16, goes up there, go to frame 1, it jumps back to frame 1. Okay, so at this point, we have actually applied the action script to both of these items. All right, so in our example here, we've added buttons, we've added action scripts, and we've made it so that our buttons actually move from one part of the timeline to a different part of the timeline. This is really, you can build a complete program for this, all on in one scene if you like. So what we'll do next is we're going to talk a little bit about different scenes. So at this point, you've learned about navigation using action scripts and buttons.